So I love these little montages that people put together. The ones that kind of highlight the either the hypocrisy of politicians, the hypocrisy of politics, the pointing out the obvious of our culture and our society or anything like that. I love when, people on Twitter or TikTok or whatever do these little collaborations of clips that express a lot. They express a lot. And one of them being this Twitter account by Turncoat Dawn. He does a lot of excellent work here. And I want to show you this. But before we get into that, I want to show you also, um, just to give you some background story of why I'm showing you this. So we know that the United States of America has spent billions upon billions upon billions, up to trillions of dollars in federal funding for war crimes in Ukraine. We know that they've spent billions upon billions, up to trillions of dollars, funding neo-Nazis to do a proxy war against Russia using Ukraine as a pawn. We know that from the start. We knew that going into this. We've been covering all the hypocrisy. We've been covering all the lies, the propaganda, the NATO machine that's causing all this, the United States that's backing into this, and how, military stocks are increasing because of this. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. And as, Julian Assange always points out, the goal of any war, especially with the United States and NATO, the goal of any war is not a winnable war. It's the continuation of war, because defense stocks are rising. They want to, annex the Russian pipeline, so we create our own natural gas section, so on and so forth. And we just want to occupy, control more of Eastern Europe and build manufactured aggression towards another superpower to the point of nuclear war. That's one of the things that we're doing. And once again, as millions of Americans are facing inflation and homelessness and severe poverty, Biden asked for more than $37 billion in Ukraine emergency aid. And again, I always point out that isn't it amazing that we're able to, ask for these bailouts for Ukraine or bailouts for Wall Street like it's some sort of fairy tale, bippity boppity boo. We can give you some money there, but money towards healthcare? No. Money towards education? No. Money towards infrastructure? No. Money to, help fix the water in Flint, Michigan? No. Nothing that would actually feasibly benefit any person whatsoever. But sure, we got multiple billions of dollars to go bomb countries. We got multiple billions of dollars to, funnel bankers that are funding more bombing of innocent civilians. We couldn't care less about people. That's what this is really about. This is money that we spend to kill people because killing to them is a lucrative business. And we're also at fault on this too, as Canadians, because it's not just America that's doing it. Canada also plays a role in this. Obviously, Canada is a NATO country, aligns itself with the United States on most things. I mean, the last good thing we've ever done as the military, I would say, is getting out of the Iraq invasion. We didn't actually partake in that. We didn't partake in Vietnam. Those were, good examples of Canadian, diplomacy and being actual peacekeepers, but I can't explain anything for this. I can't have any rationale for this. Canada announces additional $500 million in military aid to Ukraine. And again, a lot can be said here in Canada. We have a homelessness epidemic. We have mental health disorders. We have people that are sleeping on the streets. People lined up at food banks. We have small businesses shut down left, right, and center. We have so many problems here in Canada that we go and spend it on Ukraine, one of the most corrupted nations in Eastern Europe. So I gave you the backstory, and it's for this reason. So Turncoat Don did this little montage here, and he says this is the recipe for a collapse of an empire. And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Is that the military alliance of NATO and the United States is pushing so hard, so unbelievably hard on wars with with Russia, with wars against China. They're trying to use Taiwan now as a proxy, and doing all this militarism all around the world. And if you look throughout history, the reason that they're doing this is because they know their empire is slowly collapsing within itself. That the United States is no longer the dominant superpower it thinks it is. And it shows. It shows with the amount of domestic problems here back at home, and the amount of scrutiny, the amount of poverty among the richest nations on the face of the earth. And we're continuing to dominate. We're continuing to increase our forces all around the world to occupy and oppress people all around the world. And we're doing so much damage just to our own selves. So take a watch at this and see how accurate this really is.
Congress taking quick action, approving a $13 billion deal to help Ukraine.
School districts across our area tell us they're seeing significant increases in children that are homeless.
I'm announcing another $800 million to further augment Ukraine.
A revealing look at homelessness among the middle class.
U.S. have announced new military assistance for Ukraine. They promised an extra $713 million.
We experienced as a county a 22% increase in homelessness.
The Senate overwhelmingly passing a new $40 billion Ukraine aid bill.
We are learning the homeless problem we are seeing in Knoxville is growing at an alarming rate.
The U.S. is sending an additional $700 million in military aid.
We're in dire straits. We don't know where we're going to go. We have no savings.
The U.S. is sending an additional $1 billion in weapons and aid to Ukraine.
The CEO of the Coalition for the Homeless of Central Florida tells me this is a scary trend.
Pentagon announcing today it's sending a new $450 million military package to Ukraine.
Tonight, we are going in depth on the issue of homelessness, of course, a growing problem here in Colorado.
The U.S. sending an additional $400 million in military aid.
Rising housing costs and inflation are leading to more people living on the street.
The United States is sending another $1 billion in military aid.
69,000. That's how many people are homeless across L.A. County.
A new aid package is going to be announced tomorrow, including an additional $3 billion to train and equip Ukrainian forces.
Sacramento's homeless population had a jump of 67%.
The White House now asking Congress for more than $13 billion in additional military aid.
More than 2,500 students within the district don't have a place to call home.
Yeah, Katie, and that's 1,000 more from last year.
Well, the Biden administration preparing to send another $600 million military package to Ukraine.
There's a stark warning from city officials tonight as they're seeing a record number of families out on the streets.
$275 million to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs.
One L.A. County city is close now to declaring a state of emergency over homelessness.
The White House is also asking for $37.7 billion to fund the war in Ukraine.
Housing prices are up 17% from the previous year, and you can see the fallout of that just right behind me here.
Wow. That says a lot. That says a lot. And I don't know how America could still call itself a superpower. I don't know how it could call itself a dominant force of good in this world. That's literally a joke. That's literally a joke. That America continues to say it's number one. It's the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We're so free. We're so we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Rah, we're number one. And then watch something like this. I don't know how people can literally see something like this. See the amount of news stories, the amount of coverage, the amount of, spending that we spend on a corrupted nation that has nothing to do with us, that we're literally orchestrating the charade of a war so we can manufacture aggression towards Russia. And we're killing off Ukrainians, we're killing off Russians, we're killing off innocent civilians, even in our own backyard for this. Committing outrageous war crimes, unspeakable, inhumane atrocities around the world. And yet here back at home, you're one of the richest nations on the face of the earth, and you have dozens upon dozens and dozens of millions of people that are suffering through homelessness. They're suffering through mental health problems. They're suffering, food shortages. There's inflation. People can't afford basic necessities of life. How can you say you're one of the richest nations on the face of the earth and still have this homelessness epidemic? How can you say you're a superpower when you have people that are states in the state of emergency because of the fact that people are such extreme poverty? How can you say you're a superpower when you don't even have clean, drinkable water for people? That's devastating. That's utterly devastating. And that's the United States basically killing itself to maintain what little empire they have left. And that was beautifully executedly well done by Turncoat Don. I don't know why it's such a tongue twister to say, but Turncoat Don did this video here. He does a lot of great, interesting videos. We've shown a few of them here on this channel here. But I want to show that because that was beautifully well done. That was beautifully well done and highlights a lot. And you notice how nobody, you know, you've seen how many news stations and even cable news outlets are showing about homelessness. They're covering stories, and you know, it's one of those things. It's hard to ignore. It's very hard to ignore homelessness because when you're going through, say, Los Angeles or New York or, you know, even here in Toronto, in parts of Canada here, you go through major metropolitan areas. There are tent cities. It's hard to ignore. It's hard to, you know, not think about it and not worry about it. But politicians, I don't know if it's just because they, you know, drive their have chauffeurs in their limousines and they live in such wealthy neighborhoods that they don't have to deal with this problem, you know, out of sight, out of mind. But they don't mention a word about this. I don't think any politician, has mentioned a word about homelessness. I don't think a single person. And if there is, please let me know. Either send me the tweet or social media posts, or if there's a video of them saying it, please do send me it. Because I have not seen one politician in the United States of America ever mention about homelessness whatsoever. I think the last person to ever say something about it was Donald Trump. And yes, it was a terrible idea for him to mention it. He was trying to execute a plan that involved everyone just being in one tent, or I don't know exactly what it was, but it wasn't a feasible plan. But at least he mentioned about homelessness. At least he's acknowledging that there's a crisis. He's acknowledging there's a problem. That's something. That's something I can give credit to. Outside of all the other politicians that couldn't care less about people. They couldn't care less about this. And all this is taking money away from individuals, divesting the value of the country, and investing the value of military, you know, dehumanization, and continuing to bolster defense stocks to make Wall Street happy. Because, again, like Julian Assange points out every time, and I wish I had the clip right now to show it, the goal is not winnable war. The goal is continuous war. Because it makes people the most amount of money. That's why they're doing this. That's why they're continuing. Even though they know that this is going to be over at some point. That Russia's going to back out of this. And Russia will just ultimately decide the fate of whether Ukraine continues to be in war or not. They know this out in the open. But they're doing everything that they can to continue this on. Because the goal of continuous war is making the most money. That's why they're continuing to propagandize and smear and do all this shit. This charade of atrocity to manufacture aggression towards Russia so that we can maintain what little stupid ass empire we have left. And you can see it's crumbling within.